Hi, it's Alistair at Electric Scotland. This is me doing my introduction for my weekly newsletter for 3rd of May 2019. I start off by giving you a copy of an article that I read this week, which I found was quite interesting. It starts off by saying, earlier this week, the teenage climate activist Greta Thunberg arrived in Parliament with a powerful warning. And basically the article I sum it up as saying, more to the point, much of what Thunberg says about climate change is both untrue and counterproductive. And I just thought, that with all the goings on in London, about the climate change and everything, I just thought, this to me made a lot of sense. I thought I'd share the article with you. Whether you agree with it or not, of course, is up to you. But I just thought, well, this perhaps puts it more in perspective. Okay, so basically there was a special article that came through on Saturday. It was from John Ashmore, who's the deputy editor of CapX. And as I say, I have a great deal of time for CapX. I think they're pretty damn good at what they do. So anyway, there you go. That's the start there. Now, as for the news I picked for you this week, thousands take part in Glasgow Kilt Walk. It says organisers said a record 13,000 people took part in the event, which began at Glasgow Green. And there's a lot of pictures, but I will say there's not that many pictures on kilts, funnily enough. So I don't quite know where they got it from. It's from the BBC, so I don't know, maybe that's the reason there's not that many kilts being shown in the pictures. Okay, next story is, time is right for a new partnership between the UK, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Together, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and the UK are 125 million people. I've talked about CanZ UK before, so I like to keep you up to date with developments and things. Army. How to wear a kilt video leaves viewers in stitches. A hilarious video by the British Army teaching people how to properly wear a kilt has been widely praised thanks to the performance of the Scottish soldier who presents it. Really good, so I hope you'll want to watch that one. It came from the Scotsman. Then Global Britain just became the world's top investment destination, despite Brexit, of course. Last week, the UK was acclaimed as the global #1 for investment, displacing the US, an economy 9 times our size. It's just that I keep fitting these amazingly good stories, and it's all down to a revival after we voted to leave the EU. I really can't understand the stupid politicians who believe that we should remain in the EU. They're just numpties, basically. However, I dare say we'll get through it one way or another. Scientists making aviation fuel of the future in Scotland. The aviation fuel of the future could be made in Scotland, with scientists working to create an environmentally sustainable replacement. So I thought that was a good story. It came from the BBC. The Brexit Party is the earthquake British politics needs. The establishment is right to be terrified by this diverse, dynamic new party. Came from Spiked Online, this particular one. And I believe personally that the Brexit Party could do enormous things. And it seems like they're kind of honest with people at long last. So I mean, it really needs to be a great party to kind of support. Wanted. A leader for Britain's shale revolution. Shale is part of the solution, not part of the problem. And as you all know, America's done extremely well with their shale oil, but for some reason the Greens in the UK don't want to adopt it. These Greens should be sued for billions. I mean, here in Canada, for example, they've cost the Canadian taxpayers literally billions by their attitude to the oil pipeline. Just disgusting, these green people. They live on a planet of their own. They don't want to help anyone. They're useless, pathetic people. That's my view on the Greens. And I mean, really, I just keep reading all the time. All the Greens want to do is put prices up. Make it harder for poor people to get on in life. Okay, now here's another one. Why is nobody talking about nuclear power? Again, it's the Greens that don't want to talk about it. They should be sued for billions. We should bankrupt the Green parties. Really should. We should do something horrible to them. The Green New Deal ignores the safety and reliability of nuclear energy. There you go. Have a read at it and make up your own mind. Gas conditioned. President Trump's administration believes it's time to remove protections put in place for Scotch. On this day, 1707, the Act of Union takes effect. This is an article from the Scotsman. And it gives you a wee bit of a blow-by-blow on how it all came about, basically. So kind of interesting historical item, that. No clear understanding of new welfare responsibilities. There is no clear understanding of what is needed to deliver welfare payments to Scotland's expected 1.4 million claimants, Audit Scotland has said. I mean, you really want to be reading that, especially if you're a recipient yourself, because it has implications down the road, this one. This is where I keep asking the question, is the SNP really fit to govern Scotland? I mean, I genuinely believe Scotland could be a very successful independent country, but in no way will they ever do it under the SNP, because the SNP people lack vision, lack talent. They're pretty thick people on the whole. You know, and frankly, there's a lot of things wrong in Scotland, a lot of things badly wrong, and it just needs better legislation to sort it out. But the SNP keep bringing back the so-called experts they always bring back, which do nothing for the country at all. If you want independent Scotland, you need to get rid of the SNP. That's for definite. And then, just to show you how EU still have got problems, said next story is the Yellow Vest protests and the tragedy of Emmanuel Macron. So, it's showing you there's turmoil everywhere in the world. It's not just in Britain with our Brexit problems. Nigel Farage's Brexit party surges to a 9-point poll lead ahead of the European elections. So the Eurosceptic party is now on 30%, up from 28% in a week, according to a survey by YouGov for the Times. And then the Brexit Party. It was launched in April 2019, and I've got a video of the kind of launch party they had, so I've given you a link to that. You might want to watch it. I certainly watched the whole thing, very interesting. The story of London's tech scene as told by those who built it. I was really interested in that, and I mean, it's not maybe something that reflects so much on Scotland, but I just thought, well, you know, if you're in the high-tech sector, you should probably have a read of that. It's quite fascinating. I really enjoyed it. Okay, so that's the news stories I've brought for you this week. And now on to Electric Canadian. I've given you another copy of the Canadian Horticulturalist, volume 24 of 1901. And then I've got 3,800 Miles Across Canada. That's by J.W.C. Haldane, published in 1900. Again, someone that goes all the way from Britain and comes across and does the 3,800 miles across Canada. Obviously, it's interesting things to say, and I've enjoyed reading them. And then The Great Company, being a history of the Honourable Company of Merchant Adventurers trading into Hudson's Bay, is by Beckles Wilson, with an introduction by Lord Strathcona and Mount Royal, who is the present governor of the Hudson's Bay Company when this was written, and some original drawings as well, some maps, plans and illustrations. It's produced in 1899. It's really very good. I've got other histories of the Hudson's Bay Company, but this Beckles Wilson has a special connection, and I just thought I should maybe add that to the mix. The next one is History of Hamilton. I got this up because I was working with an historical society that I discovered had published some good stuff, and so I had a wee look around, and there's some good books about the history of Hamilton. So I picked a few and put them up on the special page, so you can have a wee read at it. Hamilton's in many cases was said it was like the Birmingham of Canada, and as you may know, Birmingham is the second largest city in the UK and is a big industrial hub. Okay, then the next one I've got is Connecting Communities. This is historical and personal reflections. It's a special video presentation, but I've also got a transcript of it, which I put up on a special page. It said in the presentation, Elizabeth Heman asks, what can history teach us about how to get along with each other? So you can view the video and the transcript at a link I've given you. And then the Six Nations Indians in the province of Ontario. I picked this up as an article in one of the historical publications that came out from the Hamilton area. And I thought it was pretty interesting, so I thought I'd make it a separate PDF file from it, and so I've made that available for you to read. And then there's one story by Conrad Black, Donald Trump's Nationalism is of All Colours. Then on to Electric Scotland. I've got the penultimate copy of the Scottish Review. It's volume 35, July-October 1899. So it's available for you to read. And I've got volume 7 of the Folklore Journal put up as well. And then Best Newfangled Family Tree. Here Beth asked me to post up a story of sea turtles in North Carolina. So I've added it to our index page, where you can also get to see section 1 of the May 2019 issue as well. And then an historical account of the settlements of Scotch Highlanders in America. It's prior to the Peace of 1783, together with notices of Highland regiments and biographical sketches by J.P. Maclean, which was published in 1900. So for those Scots in America, you may well enjoy that. And then Eminent Arbroathians, being sketches, historical, genealogical and biographical, 1178 to 1894 by J.M. McBain. So some really good new Scots there for you to read about. And then Robert Burns Lives. I've added a chapter 255 to this series. Essentially, it's I haven't heard from Frank for quite a while. The last time I heard from him was as a result of emailing him about this immortal memory that Kevin Haig of the Chock-a-Block put up. And I commented on it to say that, have you read Robert Burns Lives? And then I thought maybe to give him a better impression, because there's 265 chapters in it, I gave him another comment, specifically mentioned the 250th, where Robert Burns Lives gets a great review, basically, from 4 other editors of Burns Journals. And he very kindly, because all his comments are moderated, but allowed those 2 to go up. So my last communication with Frank was that he hadn't been too well, and he apparently was interested in doing this immortal memory for Robert Burns lives, but because he wasn't too well, he wasn't able to get it done. So I decided I would do it for him, and I've emailed him to tell him what I've done. So I said, if you're not happy with it, I'll take it down, not a problem, because after all, it's his column. But as it's still up on the website, I thought it would probably be better to take it now rather than lose it. So that's gone up there, and I think you might enjoy having a wee read at it anyway. Then I got an email in about Scottish Australian ancestors. It's about a story, obviously some Scots going to Australia, but apparently they took a poem with them, and in the email he's quoted the poem, which is rather nice, I thought. And I thought, well, you might like to read that and the wee story behind it, basically. And apparently he's got some other stories which he may or may not share. We'll see what happens there. And then the next one is Mrs. Lagan. I've edited her page on this lady to provide links to her books, but at the same time I've also put essays on the superstitions of the Highlanders of Scotland, to which are added translations from the Gaelic and letters connected with those formerly published in 2 volumes by Mrs. Grant of Lagan, and this is the same Mrs. Grant. I've given you a link to that, and I hope you might enjoy reading that lot. And then finally, the last article I put up is The Forester. This is plain and practical directions for the planting, rearing and general management of forest trees by James Brown, Forester of Armiston, produced in 1847. Now I will add that there is an updated version for something like 1899, which is meant to be the 6th edition. And that 6th edition has gone to 2 volumes. You can find it on the Internet Archive if you search for James Brown. You'll certainly find the 2 volumes there. Normally I put up the latest, but I felt that this first one that he did in 1847 was original, whereas the 2-volume one, he's taking a lot of foreign information from the rest of Europe into it. So I'm thinking to myself that the pure one was his first one, and I think I'm going to stick with that. But I have mentioned that the others are available, so if you want to read them, you'll be able to get hold of them. And then the story this week is A Scot Abroad. It says the pathos of the story of last century Jacobites does not lie in the 15 or even in the 45. The halo of romance that surrounds that magical Edinburgh week, the dignity of immortal defeat upon Culloden Moor, the marvel of those glorious months of wandering in the land of the Leo, all these things are a crown of life to a dead cause, nor does it lie solely in the afterlife of the prince. Rather do we find it in the records of those who spent long years in exile, sighing for Lochaber no more, and repeating ever the said refrain, but the weary never come to their ain country. So I thought it was a nice wee story, that, and I thought I would make that the story for this week. So I hope you enjoy reading it. It's mainly about the Keiths, because I've actually got a full biography of the Keiths, but I thought this small story might actually be more interesting to you, because I know a lot of you are pretty busy and can't always take the time to read stuff. So I hope you'll enjoy it. It's by Robert S. Raitt. And so that's it for this week. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for what's going on in the Brexit Party. Don't expect the BBC to do much coverage of it, because they're anti-Brexit. And of course, this being the Brexit Party, and look like doing very, very well in the European elections if they come up, the BBC won't really want to give them much exposure, so maybe Google them rather than or go to their website and see what's going on. I have written them. I think they should put more up on their website, but that's their decision after all. Okay, anyway, there you go. That's it. Hope you have a good weekend when it comes. And also, leave me any comments or suggestions. Always like to hear from you. Thanks. Bye-bye.